37,000. That is the number of human beings placed on a kill list by an artificial intelligence system called Lavender. Not by generals, not by analysts, not by soldiers with years of training and rules of engagement, by a machine. Each name on that list was generated automatically, produced by an AI processing surveillance data on every person in Gaza. Each target was reviewed by a human officer for an average of 20 seconds before a strike was approved. 20 seconds. The error rate the military itself acknowledged, 1 in 10. That means approximately 3,700 people on that list were probably not what the AI said they were. 3,700 names, generated by an algorithm, approved in seconds, and nobody has been charged. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how an AI system built a kill list using WhatsApp contacts, cell phone location data, and social media patterns, how it decided who would die, how long a human spent reviewing each decision, and why the legal system has no answer for any of it. This isn't a warning about the future of AI in warfare. This already happened. Israel has integrated AI into military operations for years. There is a system called the Gospel. It processes satellite imagery to identify physical targets, buildings, weapons depots, tunnel infrastructure. The military has publicly acknowledged it exists, but the Gospel targets places. Lavender targets people. Lavender was built inside Unit 8200, Israel's Signals Intelligence Division, roughly equivalent to the NSA. It is one of the most technically advanced military intelligence units in the world. Its alumni have founded dozens of major technology companies. The unit operates some of the most sophisticated mass surveillance infrastructure in existence. And here is the detail that matters. In 2021, a senior Unit 8200 commander published a book describing what he called a bottleneck in the targeting process. Identifying individual militants, he wrote, was slow, dependent on human analysts who had limits of time and attention. The solution was an AI capable of removing that bottleneck entirely. The system he was describing already existed. It just didn't have a public name yet. In April 2024, the Israeli investigative outlets Plus 972 magazine and Local Call published a detailed investigation into Lavender. 6 current and former Israeli intelligence officers, all with direct first-hand knowledge of the system, spoke to journalists on condition of anonymity. What they described as unlike anything previously documented in modern warfare. To understand why Lavender existed in this form, you need to understand what Israel was trying to do in the weeks following October 7th. The attack had killed more than 1,200 people inside Israel. The military response was designed to move faster than any previous campaign, to process targets at a scale and speed that human intelligence alone could not sustain. That is the gap Lavender was engineered to fill. Not to replace human judgment entirely, but to eliminate the bottleneck of human analysis at a volume no human system could match. But before we get to what it did, we need to understand how it selected its targets, because the answer involves data that is almost certainly on your phone right now. Gaza has approximately 2.3 million residents. Lavender built a digital profile on every single one of them. The AI was fed continuous surveillance data, phone location history tracking movement across days, weeks, and months, WhatsApp contact lists, who you message, how often, when, membership in group chats, connections between your number and numbers already flagged as belonging to Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad operatives, social media activity, family relationships mapped through communication patterns. All of it fed into a machine learning model trained to recognize behavioral signatures associated with militant activity. The model was trained on historical data, profiles of people already confirmed as militants, mapped against their behavioral patterns before identification. The AI learned, if a person exhibits this combination of contact patterns, location history, and communication frequency, they statistically resemble someone already confirmed to be a militant operative. It is the same logic used in commercial fraud detection or insurance risk modeling. The difference is that fraud detection declines a transaction. Lavender authorized a strike. The output was a single number, a score between 1 and 100. A score close to 100 meant the system classified you as a probable militant. A score above a defined threshold meant your name was added to the list. The AI required no evidence in any legal sense. No witness, no weapon, no document. It required a pattern, a statistical signature in your behavioral data suggesting you were probably affiliated with an armed group. And patterns carry error. That is not a criticism. That is mathematics. In the early weeks following October 7th, the threshold was lowered. The military was no longer targeting only senior commanders, the small number of high-ranking figures whose identities were already well documented. It was targeting low-ranking operatives, people with minor roles, no leadership positions, involvement described by officers as marginal. As the threshold dropped, more names cleared the cutoff. The list reached 37,000. Here is where the human element entered the process. Officers were assigned to review targets generated by the AI. Their function was to confirm the machine's output before a strike could proceed. One officer described the experience directly. "I would invest 20 seconds on each target at this stage. I would do dozens per day. I had no added value as a human being beyond being a rubber stamp." Not a decision maker, a rubber stamp. The AI identified. The human glanced. The strike was approved. For low-ranking targets, the majority of those 37,000 names, the military authorized what it internally classified as acceptable collateral damage of up to 15 to 20 civilian deaths per strike. For senior commanders, that figure rose above 100. These figures come directly from officers who operated inside Lavender. They are not estimates from outside critics. They are the thresholds that were set, applied, and followed. To understand what 15 to 20 civilian deaths means operationally, it means strike planners calculated in advance that the building might contain that many non-combatants, determined this fell within acceptable parameters, and approved the operation regardless. This calculation is not unique to AI-assisted targeting. Proportionality assessments have been part of military doctrine for decades. What changed with Lavender was the volume. Targets were processed and approved at a pace no human-led system had ever operated at before. The math of acceptable error, applied thousands of times, produces a different outcome than the same math applied dozens of times. The IDF's own internal assessment, Lavender operated at approximately 90% accuracy. 10% of 37,000 is 3,700 people, flagged by an AI that, by the military's own calculation, was wrong about them. Not 3,700 confirmed militants. 3,700 names produced by a pattern recognition system that missed one time in 10. There was a second AI system running alongside Lavender. Its name, translated from Hebrew, was "Where's Daddy?" The system had one purpose: to determine when a target on the Lavender list was at home. Not at a military position, not near a weapons cache, not in a command facility, at home, with his family. The operational logic was simple. A residential building is a fixed structure with a known address. If the AI confirms the target is inside, the strike can be executed without tracking a moving target, without uncertainty about location, without coordination complexity. Officers described the design intent without ambiguity. The system was built to bomb them in homes, with their families. In the first months of the war, the combination of Lavender and Where's Daddy produced the following sequence across hundreds of strikes. The Lavender AI flagged a resident as a probable militant based on phone data and social connections. The Where's Daddy AI confirmed he was home. A strike was approved, in under a minute, by an officer whose review lasted 20 seconds. That sequence ended with a residential building destroyed, and Lavender was wrong about one person in 10. Officers confirmed that the majority of residential strikes in this phase used unguided munitions, what military planners call dumb bombs, not precision weapons, gravity-fed munitions designed to destroy an entire building structure. The choice was deliberate. Unguided munitions are cheaper and available in far larger quantities. For a campaign operating at this scale, hundreds of residential strikes in a compressed time frame, precision munitions would have created a logistics constraint that unguided weapons eliminated. When the AI was wrong, it wasn't a miscategorization in a database. It was a building, with people inside. When the investigation was published, the IDF issued a carefully constructed response. Lavender, the military said, was a database, a tool to assist human decision-making, not to make autonomous targeting decisions. All strikes, it stated, are conducted in accordance with international law. The officers who worked inside the system described something different. The UN Special Rapporteur on the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories reviewed the findings and stated, if the reports are accurate, many Israeli strikes in Gaza would constitute war crimes. No court has issued that ruling. No individual has been charged. No international tribunal has opened a formal investigation specifically into the use of AI targeting systems in this conflict, because Lavender exists in a space that the laws of war were never designed to address. Those laws were written for humans making decisions about humans. International humanitarian law requires that any strike distinguish between combatants and civilians, that harm to civilians be proportionate to anticipated military advantage, and that a human being take precautionary measures before approving an attack. The question Lavender raises is whether 20 seconds of human review satisfies that third requirement, or whether it satisfies it technically while eliminating it functionally. Legal scholars disagree. The International Committee of the Red Cross has issued guidance suggesting autonomous weapon systems must permit meaningful human control. What constitutes meaningful remains undefined in any binding legal instrument. That question currently has no agreed answer, not in any courtroom, not in any treaty, and the system is still operational. Lavender is one system, one conflict. The American equivalent, Project Maven, has been operational for 8 years. It doesn't process dozens of targets per analyst per day. It processes 10,000 potential targets per second. Unlike Lavender, almost no independent investigation has examined how Project Maven makes its decisions, what error rate it operates at, or what oversight, if any, exists between the AI's output and a strike authorization. That's the next video.